fantastic. Whoa. The sunshine is so bright in here. I need sunglasses. It's so great to see you all. And
Nice to see you, Michelle.
I am so glad to be with you again. And I have to say that to come back here after your triumph in stopping those Obamacare exchanges gives me so much hope. This is ground zero in the battle for freedom and liberty and real choice in America. And as many of you know, I'm not just some outsider coming back here. Unlike certain public officials on 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, I am proud to show my birth certificate, which says Philadelphia, Pennsylvania on it. Which explains my persona, right? I'm not angry, I'm from Philly. And we're gathered here today because this issue of paycheck protection is fundamental. And I heard that there was going to be a bunch of scary rabble-rousers gathering here, and I had to come be with you. Because really, what could be more radical than the idea that public unions should play by the rules as everybody else? How scary. You know, we always confront, as I have over the last 20 years that I've fought in public life for limited government principles. We always have to come and contend with the so-called fairness police. It's not fair, right? And these are the same people who enjoy immense special privileges and perks, right? When I was here last time to talk about the Obamacare exchanges, what was going on? Well, we found out that these same public unions that were the biggest lobbyists that spent the most money to push Obamacare were the first ones in lines for what? A waiver. Dude, where's our waivers? Right? And so you've got the same thing here. Everyone else has to play by the rules. Everyone else, when they collect dues for their own private purposes, has to set up their own system. But thanks to years and years and decades of a racket, they get to have the government, the state, act as their bagmen for automatic withdrawal and deduction of dues. It's not fair. It's not right. Let me tell you how much of a role the government should play in collecting dues for political purposes. None. Zero. Zero, zero, zero. Period. And you've got some great warriors here fighting at the tip of the spear to try and turn back this racket. Thank you, each and every one of you, for standing up. Because, as I have said many times, and you know that it's the 5-year anniversary of the publication of Culture of Corruption. Yes, I have earned my life degree in corruptology, believe me. And you here in Pennsylvania have witnessed it. You've seen it. There are people who served in this building who are where? Behind bars for using public money for political purposes. Why should the SEIU and UFCW and AFSCME have a pass? No pass. No more perks. No more privileges. Let's have fairness in Pennsylvania. And this is about we know what this is about. You know, a media person asked me, well, it doesn't really cost that much money for them to do it. It's about the principle. Here's a radical idea from Thomas Jefferson. You are all familiar with this. Why aren't the public servants familiar with this who are defending this racket? Thomas Jefferson himself said, to compel a man to furnish dues and money for the propagation of ideas with which he disbelieves is sinful and tyrannical. For those of us who stand on the side of paycheck protection, it is an issue of principle, it's an issue of ethics, it's an issue of taxpayer accountability, and for the other side, it's all about money, control, power, and coercion. These people do not stand on the side of rank and file workers. They never have. And that's why it's so important for each and every one of you to show your faces. It is an act of bravery for you to be here. I have many friends, and I know many of you who are in this rotunda right now have felt the wrath of the union mob. And no one of us is immune to it, okay? It used to be that only if you appeared on cable TV or held high public office would you be subjected to this. All you have to do is look at the IRS witch hunts to know the depths of the culture of corruption. I am often known for calling people names, okay? I call it calling things what they are. And we need to stop sugarcoating it. These public employee union employee bosses are bullies. They are power grabbers, and they are thieves. That is the bottom line. Why else would they defend this confiscatory scheme? Why? Why can't you DIY? Do it yourselves. Why do you need government resources? Why do you need government infrastructure? Collect your own damn dues. In my book, Culture of Corruption, I quoted the former head, the former thug-in-chief of the SEIU, Andy Stern, who made clear what their agenda is and how they get things done. He said, well, we prefer to use the power of persuasion, but when we need to, which is always, we will use the persuasion of power. We know what they mean. They play with brass knuckles. Jennifer and Luke, they told you about it. We saw it. We saw it broadcast nationwide. The brass knuckles they use to intimidate people who oppose their power rackets. And that is why it's so important for each and every one of you to administer a spinal fortification injection here. And like I said, you've got great leaders with Daryl Metcalfe and Scott Wagner and Brian Cutler. Thank you, all of you, all of you. But the same way that you turned back those Obamacare exchanges, those top-down control mechanisms, Trojan horses, the same way that you did that is how this is going to happen. Grassroots, bottom up, the opposite way of the way that these public employee unions operate. And I have to say to you, and I always draw on Scripture for my strength, be not afraid, okay? Many of you know who are informed about the way these people operate, that they have an exemption from harassment and stalking laws. They've got a waiver from everything, don't they? And the way to combat this is to draw strength in numbers. And that is why Americans for Prosperity exists. And that is why I'm so thankful for that organization, which is you. You are AFP. You are the foot soldiers for freedom. You are the ones who stand for rank and file workers. And don't let them tell you otherwise. Seize back the narrative. Seize back power for the people. The culture of corruption is systemic. And I've always said that sunlight is the best disinfectant for it. And the ballot box is the ultimate sanitizer. And boy, do we need gallon jugs of that hand sanitizer. Yes? I've been in many places where the leftist mob, the unhinged mob, has shown up to try and shout me down. And the reason that I'm here today is to support you, to thank you, and tell you to crank it up and speak louder. You here in Harrisburg have experienced something that the limited government movement has experienced nationwide. And that is, all too often, you've got people who are in the so-called leadership who are unwilling to lead. And when they won't do it, you gotta DIY, do it yourselves. And give them the incentives they need. That's why your voices matter so much. I have to thank you, and I really need to urge you to continue the fight. Sometimes change is incremental, and you gotta keep pushing, and you gotta keep fighting, and you gotta keep learning. There are so many reasons why I tell people there isn't a better time on earth to be an American than right now. We have more resources at our disposal to change the power dynamic. And that's what the other side fears, right? Because who am I? Who's Jennifer? Look at us. Who are we? Just little women with big mouths and sharp heels. And let me make sure there's no kids in the audience. And we need to kick more ass. And ultimately, this is about speaking truths to monopolistic power. It's about cleaning house, which is what you are doing with this and all of the other important matters. But the reason why this one is so fundamental is that it shows where we stand. It shows that we stand on the side of ethics and integrity and freedom of choice. And ultimately, this is a matter of free political speech, is it not? Because free speech means not only voicing your political views, but also the freedom from being forced to pay for someone else's. Unlike a lot of people who will talking points about these issues on TV, this is personal for me. Many of you know that my mother was a public school teacher in South Jersey. And I got to see firsthand the injustice and the unfairness of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars of hard-earned dues being siphoned away for political purposes that she absolutely abhorred. And these power mongers and union bosses will say, oh, well, there's ways of getting that money back. Oh, yeah? Well, you have to deal with people who are wearing figurative and possibly literal brass knuckles. I've seen it across the country, and I've reported on it from New Jersey to California to Washington State, and I know it happens here. When you've got groups like the PSEA, right? These people always put their white hats on, demonize everyone else, point their fingers, and accuse us of greed, accuse us of standing against workers while they're the ones picking their pockets. Keep fighting. Keep up the battle. Know that there are so many people outside of this state that are with you. We stand together. We will not be silenced. And we stand in fraternity and sorority to let those union mobsters know that we will not be intimidated, we will not back down, and we will not stop until fairness is restored. Thank you so very much. Keep it up.